Welcome, Madam Z here, your magical life coach, and we are here with Tara Sanchez. And hey, Tara, how are you? She is going to be one of the presenters that is going to be teaching a workshop on the Witches Gathering event November 6th through the 8th. So, welcome, Tara. How you been? How are you dealing with things?
All right, really. I've got about 2 or 3 book manuscripts on the go. I did actually get productive in COVID for a while, just for a while though, and then I adopted pajamas. I now have day pajamas and night pajamas. So they're all sitting there.
You don't have to have goals, right? I always say the pajamas are going to be the death of me, because when COVID's over here, that means I'm like, I have to put on regular pants. Those things aren't going to fit. I'm like, oh, I'm in trouble. So tell us a little bit about you, and have a short introduction to our viewers, because I'm sure that we have a lot of viewers that are going to be new to you. Mm-hmm. So let's just jump in and just introduce yourself.
Okay, so I'm Tara. I am a Gardnerian. I was an Alexandrian, but I jumped ship and went over to the dark side. And I'm a Gardnerian. I'm also a druid, so I call myself a Druid witch, really, is what I call myself. And I'm an author. I've written a couple of books now. I wrote The Temple of Hecate about 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I've just published through Llewellyn Urban Fairy Magick. So I'm going to be discussing fairies because it's very apt. And I live in Cheshire. And I run a coven, and generally I spend most of my life doing shenanigans, magical shenanigans, because I don't have a normal day job. Up until recently, I was a pagan chaplain for the prison ministry, and now I work the tarot lines.
Oh, yeah.
Pins meet. So that's what I do most of my life. And the rest of the time I teach tarot and I write and I wander around the woods talking to fairies. So, yeah, fairy bothering card slinger, I think, sums me up quite well, really.
Sounds like an amazing life.
It's pretty good. I enjoy it.
So tell us a little bit about, you said you are into, talking about fairies. You're going to be the only presenter that is going to be presenting on fairies, and I know that Fairy Magick is very much attached to, lack of a better word, sorry if this is wrong, like Wales and New England and Celtic and Druidry and all that. So tell us a little bit about fairies.
Okay, well, for a start, nearly every culture in the world has fairies. Most people don't talk about them quite the same way as us Brits and Irish and Welsh and Scots. We tend to like to talk about our fairies a lot, because a lot of our sort of extant folklore is based around it. But when I was researching, for example, I discovered that there's something called the Detroit Devil, which is actually a little red punk figure that causes all kinds of trouble and is still relevant and being seen today. So yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think it has to be Celtic, but that is sort of where I am. That's the landscape I live in. So what I like to teach is how to find the fairies in your square mile.
Oh, that's going to be amazing.
And because the other thing as well is most fairies now are going to be in a non-country landscape. The ones that you meet are going to be on your city streets.
Yeah.
There was a survey recently in 2017 that asked for people worldwide to submit their experiences of the fairy in the modern world. And you are more likely to meet a fairy in your bedroom than you are actually out in the hills or in your backyard. So we actually have a look at how to do that. That's part of what I'm very passionate about, is teaching people to find things in their own backyard, the magic of their everyday world.
Right. So that's gonna be great, because a lot of us, especially the city witches, aren't privy to going out and trying to find, forest fairies or fairy rings or mushrooms or, fairy doors, or because they don't have that. A lot of, witches now live in the city and the urban setting. And so I think they're missing that connection of where can I find witches, like in my backyard or my everyday life or on, the streets of the city. So that's very interesting. That's an interesting take. I don't think I've ever come across someone who taught that.
Well, it started for me. I mean, it was way back when there were two forums. Oh gosh, this would have been back the early 2000s. There was eCauldron and there was one called Wiki UK, and everybody was always telling people you must go out into the country to find. And I remember, and I lived in inner city Manchester then, Greater Manchester, and walking out into the road and seeing this really sickly looking rowan tree that was embedded in concrete. And it was struggling to exist and survive on the street. And I remember thinking, I can't be a witch because I can't do this. And I had a small child and a husband that worked away a lot of the time. And I was like, how am I going to live this life? And I really felt that, and it was then that it struck me that I was never going to be, although I do spend hours and days sometimes out in the hills now because of where I live, I'm lucky. But at the time, I was like, I'm never going to be that person. And why should we be excluded? And so it became a big, massive, crusade almost for me. It is something that I still think with the movement of the witches that are online now, I think we are making changes, particularly with the youngsters coming up. But there is still that divide. And I think there's a lot of work left to do that way. So
I think so, too.
You see, I've just gone all animated about it, haven't I?
No, it's fine. It's fine. So tell us a little bit how you guys started in doing this kind of craft, or talking to the fairies, and also what got you started. What was the point, or the jumping off point that you're like, this is the path I'm going to go into?
Yeah, sure. So as far as seeing things and talking to the fairies, actually, that was from a very, very young age. I was maybe 5 or 6, and the kids on the street, we all used to play out typical 80s kids. We used to get dragged home when the sun went down by various parents. And the kids, I was the very youngest on the street. I was barely allowed to play out. And all the other kids persuaded me that down the road in the play park, if you went there at midnight, you could see fairies. And I think it was the very first time I remember feeling just awe and magic and everything. And they all arranged to meet me. They promised they were going to meet me. And I stayed up so late and they didn't. And I actually ran out the house and went down to the play park at midnight to see if I could see the fairies, and then ran all the way back again because I was frightened. So that was my very first experience. But actually, as far as becoming a witch and a magical practitioner, I was actually worried about my sister and my friend. My sister came home with a Kate West book, The Real Witches Kitchen or something like that. I can't even remember what it was now. And I thought she'd joined a cult. I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
She's gone on. She's now Jehovah's Witness, and she does her own thing and tells me to burn in hell. But other than that, it's fine. We still talk occasionally. But somewhere along the line, she sort of moved through it, and I became increasingly fascinated and found myself here in a place where I couldn't imagine being anywhere else now in my life. So, yeah.
How long ago was that?
20 odd years ago now. It would have been about 2001. No, 2000 it would have been. But I didn't really declare myself as something until 2001, 2002.
Correct. Yeah. So when you read tarot cards, do you bring in the fairy energy? Is like, I don't work with fairies because you have this misconception that fairies are light and fluttery, which they can be, but I like, just like angels, I like my fairies a little bit darker and my angels a little bit darker. So, a lot of people don't work with the darker fairies, but when you do tarot cards, do you bring in the fairy energy when you read?
On a day-to-day when I'm working, no, never would do. It's a very personal practice. I tend to also think that fairies bite as a general rule. Have you watched Labyrinth, where Hoggle and Sarah, and he goes, what do you expect? Fairies bite. I tend to see most fairies, to be honest, as on the darker side. So it's something that I would do one-to-one with a client, where we would potentially use tarot as a form of divination to make some kind of connection. We could do it other ways as well with scrying. I particularly like scrying when working with the Fae. They do very well with vibrant imagery and auditory hallucination as well, which sometimes does make you think you're going mad. Yeah, but that's okay. We're all just a little bit mad. So
we have to be a little bit cray-cray in order to be here, right?
We do.
I know I have a fairy garden and a fairy garden kind of right by my doorway when you first come in. So I'm welcoming them, and I made it a cute little house, and I made it. It's kind of like on a little TV tray, a smaller tray, so I can make it portable and move it around if I need to.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, so I'm kind of thinking maybe I should move it in the backyard for some reason. I'm thinking maybe I should move it back there because it's been in the front of my house for a while. So they're probably like, I've been here long enough. I need to change up scenery, I suppose, like we all do. So is there any...
Having some kind of, won't say shrine, but having a place, a spirit house is probably the better way of describing it. A place for the fairies to live within your property is actually quite common and has precedence in history. So the Brownie stains of Scotland, they would actually pour beer or milk or cream over it, and it would normally be in front of your hearth. And I actually have two. I have one on either side because you can have good brownies and you can have bad brownies. So depending on what I want to work with is where I would put the stone. So yeah, shift them around. They're probably telling you they want a new scene. So
that's what I'm thinking too. And I've dealt with brownies before. I have house brownies. And every time something goes missing, I'm like, all right, please put it back. Give it back to me. And what do you want? Because I will give you something if you give me my keys back, or you give me my necklace back, or my, my pendulum. I know you took it. Quit playing around with me. What do you want? So I try to offer them something in return. Come give me back my stuff, kind of thing. Yeah. But brownies are super mischievous, man. They're like, they just like to play pranks on you.
Yeah. And normally, if you've annoyed them, to be honest, though, you can normally get them on side.
Yeah, you have to keep them on your good side. If not, they'll annoy you because they like to hide stuff. And, make you think like you're going crazy because you're like, I know I just put that right there. So super excited about your class. Talk a little bit about what you're going to be teaching us on the Witches Gathering, which is November 6th through the 8th. So what's your workshop about?
Okay, so it's actually, because it's so close to Samhain, I'm actually going to look at the wild hunt and chasing the darker side of the Fae. I am very lucky as where I live is a corridor along the North Cheshire, North Wales coastline, which is the home of Gwynap Neath. And it is traditionally his stomping ground. We have evidence of him as far up as Preston by the River Ribble, and he comes all the way down and he runs along the Berwyn mountain ranges, and then he actually travels with St. Cothlin all the way down to Glastonbury, and there is a processional route. And all the way along there, we actually have stories of the wild hunt chasing across the skies at night and whisking children away and all kinds of wonderful things like that. And the Cwnanwn, which are the dark hounds of the underworld of Annabon, actually chasing across the sky. And we have loads and loads of shucks and barguests and black hounds. And it's a wonderful piece of countryside. But when I started researching, and the wild hunt is not actually just limited to the UK. You have, I've been doing a massive amount of research on the Mothman phenomenon. Yeah. When you actually look at Mothmans Myths, you actually have a wild hunt phenomenon where there's lots of aerial, I'm trying to think of the right words. It's like, it's a wild hunt going across the sky. It's a fairy raid is what we're seeing. And so I want to teach people how to connect to that wild hunt energy that starts at Samhain and runs all the way through. And I believe it actually runs all the way through really until about May time, because we have myths of Gwynap Neath running through. I'm just going to do this because it's really annoying me and it'll annoy the quality. There we go. And we've actually got myths and legends of Gwynedd Neath actually doing things around Maytime in Glastonbury. So we actually have a landscape of about 6 months of the year. And I see that as, to use the Scottish term, the unseelie court. And then from Maytime through to Samhain, I actually use Cerridwen as the fairy queen, and she's the seelie court. So I have a two-halved year. So we're going to have a little look at that as well. And we're going to look at invocations to summon fae, and we're going to have do a path working as well to access the fae, and hopefully have a jolly good time, and hope nobody goes running screaming out of the Zoom room.
No, we won't. We love the dark side of the Wheel of the Year for sure. And this is why I wanted to come together, because it is the Wheel of the Year and it is a season of the witch. And so this is the time of you to connect with your dark goddesses, your underworld gods, or the dark, side of angels, or the dark side of fae. And a lot of inner work and a lot of letting go and cutting cords and, looking at what you want to manifest and setting intentions for the next year. So no, nobody's going to be afraid. It's almost like the darker it is, the better we like it.
Oh, we like grobbly. I call it grobbly.
Grobbly. Yeah.
Grobbly.
So we're not afraid. Definitely not afraid. And the people who truly are interested in it are like, kind of like, well, I don't know, but it's kind of dark. Once they get into your class or get into what Samhain really is about, it has nothing to do with what you see on TV. It really doesn't. And I always say, you have to balance your witchcraft out. You have to, you can't live in the light all the time. You can't live in the dark all the time. No. We are cyclical craft. We, this is a dark side, the dark half that we work in. So I'm excited. I think your class is going to be amazing.
Well, I just think the whole conference is going to be amazing. I've been really excited to see everything that's going on, and I'm just trying to work out if I can shift my whole sleeping cycle to your time zone so I can actually attend everything.
Yeah. It's hard because you're still, with it being worldwide virtual conference, people who are on, across the pond or, in Australia, they're like, man, it's such a time zone, it's a big time shift. The good thing about that is that it's on replay. Yes. So if you get your VIP tickets, then for the people who haven't bought their VIP tickets, you get unlimited access to the replays of all the courses, of all the classes, of everything. So if you're like, man, I can't make this class, but I really want to connect with you, I want to, watch your workshop, then you just hit replay and you get to hang out with Tara. So that'd be really cool. So I made it really, really easy for people who don't live in America and they have a different time zone to actually try to watch the replay.
That's wonderful.
So what is, like, I know you like to work with fae, right? Because you're doing your workshop on. But what is your favorite kind of magic that you love to work with?
Oh, honestly, I have a secret passion for grimoire magic, to be honest with you. I started my career not as a Gardnerian or an Alexandrian. I actually apprenticed for 5 years with a ritual magician. That was my very first experience of magic. And he was a ritual magician that specialized in Enochian magic. So we did some really batshit crazy experimental stuff. I just learned so much, and I've never quite got rid of that love of that kind of work. So even within my coven, I love to be able to bring in evocatory magic. I like to be able to bring in sigils. I like to be able to bring in scrying and scrying with goetic entities, for example. Angels and demons and all. Oh my!
I know, right? I love demons. A demon is not what you think it is.
No, it's not.
So
that probably secretly is. I've been this lockdown. I've been very, very into the Bohemian stars of all things.
Really?
so I've been looking at stellar magic from sort of the 15th and 16th century and reading all the manuscripts, and I've created all the sigils that go with the different Bohemian stars, and I sort of over the next year I will get up to stupid times and consecrate them at the right time when they're at the right point in the sky and that kind of thing. And so, yeah, those are my secret projects.
You just make me feel like I'm just a slacking witch.
It's all right. See, I'm just at home. I haven't got a big family or anything like that, so I can just move around and do silly things like that.
Yeah. It's very interesting. So we talked a little bit about scrying too. You touched on that a couple. What kind of scrying do you like to do? Or what?
Black mirror scrying. Well, I'll scry anything pretty much, but my fondness is black mirror scrying. I have a nasty habit of smashing black mirrors. Though the first one I made was when I was apprenticed to the Rich Magician, and it was a 13-inch clock face which was painted black. Which I put into a big 1960s portal mirror. Do you remember the ones that your grandma had with the big brass thing? I sprayed them. It was absolutely beautiful. And I was doing this particular sets of operations. I was instructed to smash it at the end of the operations, and it was just, I worked so hard on that. So it almost became a bit of a habit that I would say I would make a black mirror for a specific set of operations, and then I will actually break the black mirror and make another one for. So I tend now to buy IKEA picture frames and just use blackboard paint.
Right. Yeah.
It's cheaper and easier.
Exactly. I go to the dollar store and get my frames, or the thrift store and get my frames, and then I repaint it with the black. And
that's a really good idea. It's less damaging.
Yeah. And you can find some really cool old antique frames at like thrifting antique stores, or just make sure they're not really, really valuable, because you are going to spray paint it, right?
Yeah.
But I'm on the lookout for an obsidian scrying mirror.
Yeah.
I love obsidian. And so I have a piece of obsidian here. I always keep on my desk if I can get it. But it's not polished or anything, really. It's just a piece of obsidian.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I always keep it on my altar and while I'm working. But I want an obsidian scrying mirror so bad, but I have to look. And here's the thing about that. I mean, I can't buy one offline. This is something that I need to like touch.
Yeah.
Most stuff I'm okay with just buying stuff online, but sacred stuff like that I want to actually keep in my practice, I have to like really touch it and feel it and ask, questions. So I love obsidian scrying mirrors.
I've got a lovely piece. It's tucked away. It's about this big, that I picked up from a place in Wales called Paris Mountain. And it's actually an open cast strip mine from about 200 years ago. But it has this weird ethereal feeling to it. And at the bottom of it is these great sulfur pits. And it's a very strange place, because you do feel like you're going into another world, and as you're going in, you can actually feel the spirits of place looking at you, and there's a massive amount of resentment still, even hundreds of years later, as to what's happened. I was walking one time, I came across I looked at first and thought, what is this black stuff? And it was blast glass, basically black obsidian, but man-made black obsidian. And there was just this one piece that had a perfectly clean side on one side, and I was like, oh, thank you very much. I'm popping that in my pocket now.
Yeah, I know. My boyfriend and I like to take these big long vacations during Yule, because of work he gets to take off 2 or 3 weeks. Oops. And so we went to this big caldera. I think it was in New Mexico or somewhere out there. And so we walked around the whole base of the caldera, and it was in like a national forest, and it was beautiful because it was wintertime and you walked in the snow, but you could see these pieces of obsidian laying on the ground, these big chunks of obsidian. But because you were on the national forest or national registry or whatever, you couldn't pick up the stones. And I'm like, why you want to torture me like this? I could just pick it up. But so we were surrounded by huge chunks of black obsidian. So it's my favorite stone. I absolutely love it.
It's beautiful.
One of these days I'll find one for sure. So what is the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to send you an email or just hang out or a message or just see what you're up to?
All right. Well, there's two ways. They can come and find me at tarasanchez.com, which is nice and easy. Yeah. And if they want to sign up to my newsletter, that would be absolutely fabulous. And I keep that regularly updated. And there will be some offers for people who are attending the conference.
Yeah.
If they sign up to my newsletter with certain codes. And if you want to track me down on Facebook, then I am Tara Sanchez. I have an author page on there, which people can message me on. Or you can actually find me on Insta as either Tara Sanchez or the Fairy Fortune Teller. I've got 2 profiles.
Awesome. So, yeah, she's given a special code to the people who attend the workshop, but you have to go to the workshop to get the code. Yeah. Awesome. So before we end, let us know about what kind of thing that you're crushing on as far as esoteric or podcast or witchy authors or movies, because you know it is the season of the witch. So I'm binging on Halloween horror movies.
Well, I mean, I think I said actually when we were doing the prep for this, I'm currently completely mesmerized by Camellia Elias. Her readings are they're just out of this world. I swear she's half fae. So yeah, I'm having a bit of a girl crush on her because I think she's fabulous. As far as authors go, do you know what? I'm really enjoying Thomas Prower's work. I've got his book on Death Magic and his book on Santissima Muerte, because I have quite a long-standing relationship with her because she pretty much looked after me whilst I was working in the prison service. I very much felt it was a case of, you're looking after mine, so I'll look after you. But the relationship has continued on. So I'm always fascinated when people bring out more information about her, particularly when they come from the countries where she originated from, because it's going back to source. So I particularly like his work, and I'm always in awe of Jason Miller's work because he's just prolific. I think the word is. He makes me feel like a slacker.
We always have those witches, and I did a post on that about a year ago or something about that. A different time, different kinds of witches, not like green witch or or kitchen witch, but I'm like, just maybe you're not good at kitchen witchery. Maybe you're good at being an advocate for witches, or an advocate for other people, or maybe you're good at gathering people in circle. Maybe you're good at that. So it's different kind of craft, different kind of witching, and everybody has their own talent for sure. And I always tell my students, just keep your blinders on. Don't compare yourself to other people, because then that's going to be your downfall, is when you start comparing yourself to other people, for sure. But as long as
one of the things I've actually noticed, particularly during lockdown, because we're all spending so much more time online, is the people who are doing well, that are really living their magic, that are and being prolific in producing resources that we can access. They aren't people that spend forever on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. They use it as a resource, and then they go out and they live their lives, and they don't care what other people are doing. Right. Somebody else may have written about exactly the same subject on Pathos 2 days before, but if it's something they're passionate about, they will write about it, do it, work with it magically. We all need to do a little bit more of that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And, I tell my students also, witchcraft is about doing. It's about getting your hands dirty. It's not about sitting there scrolling through Instagram and Facebook all day long, looking at that. It's about, finding your magic, taking to that and taking it out into your magical craft and actually doing the magic, doing the work. That's when you'll see the transformation. And that's when you'll see the magic, is when you're sitting there in circle, or you're, doing some spell casting, or you're doing some, kitchen magic. And, a couple of days ago, actually, I went out into the back garden and I went and harvested some mint and some lemon balm to make, tea with.
Oh, I love
a whole ritual with that, and a whole grinding it and drying it, and the candle and the incense was burning, that kind of stuff. Get outside, do some magics. Even though this is a virtual event, we still want you to take what you learn here and go out into the world and create your magic. Right? I don't want everybody just consuming stuff. And one of the things that I have lived by is creation before consuming. So, and I tell my students that to go create something before you come back and consume, make it a 50-50 kind of thing, right? Because you'll find that you spend too much consuming stuff and you need that outlet, right? And that's what magic is about. So, I love it. I love it. I can't wait for your class on the Fae. You're the only one in the event that's going to be talking about the Fae. So I'm so excited about that. That's going to be the Witches Gathering November 6th through the 8th. And you will have a link to purchase your VIP tickets and your regular tickets. But I really recommend you get the VIP tickets because you get all extra cool stuff. And that's going to be a description in the comments. And at the ticker at the bottom, you'll have a link there. And I will put Tara's information on there where you can come hang out with her and bug her about the Fae. Ask her all kinds of questions. So anything else? Any parting words or any parting, kind of words of wisdom that you want to give the listeners?
Oh, words of wisdom. Carry a left shoe in your pocket if you want to scare a fairy away. No, seriously, there's loads of folklore that suggests you can scare the fairies away by throwing a left shoe at them. So just carry a random left shoe in your pocket.
There you go. Doesn't have to be a big shoe, I guess, right?
No, doesn't have to.
Awesome. All right, my friend, we will see you November 6th through the 8th at the Witches Gathering online virtual event, where Tara's going to be teaching about the Fae. So glad you're going to be here. All right, everyone, we will see you at the event. Witch on.